So, Pokemon. Pokemon is a fun series that I've been into for a while. A couple years ago, I decided to try to get into competitive Pokemon since it sounded like a fun time, and boy is there a lot to learn. But I did learn it all, and I discovered that there were these IRL tournaments that you could go to and play competitive Pokemon and win cool prizes. So I dreamed of going to one for a while. So a while later, I discovered that there would be a tournament held in Portland, Oregon from May 5th to May 7th, which was reasonable enough of a distance for me to be able to travel to. So I made the decision to sign up for it and go to one of these regional Pokemon tournaments for the first time. So here's my experiences with the regionals. So Friday is an optional day with registration and a practice tourney, which I decided to do. So I arrived at the convention center around noon after I grabbed a bite to eat. The burger I had was pretty yummy. I entered the building and was mesmerized by just how big and clean everything looked in the convention center. I head down and into the Pokemon line until I end up standing there for a while, until I finally get entered in and registered for a practice tournament. But before I played, I realized I forgot to go stand in the other line to pick up some bonus goodies. So I went through that real quick and got a playmat and an Arvin card, which is pretty cool even though I wasn't here for TCG. So I head back into the room with the tourney and wait for everything to start. We were informed that there would be 4 matches played today, so I got out my Switch and started battling. Then I realized that you were allowed to use a notebook to take notes, which I realized could help me out with not only winning, but writing the script for this video. I didn't have a notebook on me on Friday, so I unfortunately don't remember every single matchup that happened, but I won 3 out of the 4 battles and placed 6th out of 22 players, so we were off to a pretty good start. I felt like the team I was using finally clicked. So speaking of the team, here's what I used. My 2 most common leads were Fluttermane and Chi-Yu, which Chi-Yu's Beads of Ruin weakens the opponent's special defense while Fluttermane can deal huge damage. My Fluttermane ran Choice Specs for its item, so it can get a special attack boost. It has powerful moves like Dazzling Gleam to hit both opponents, and enough investment into HP to survive a few extra hits. Chi-Yu is running Choice Scarf for the extra speed boost, with moves like Heat Wave, Dark Pulse, Overheat, and Psychic. Another Pokemon I'm using is Annihilate, with moves like Bulk Up and Drain Punch for being tanky, and Rage Fist for damage, which gets more powerful every time you get hit. It also has the Defiant ability, so if the opponent uses a Pokemon with Intimidate, then Annihilate gets an attack boost. The next half of my team runs more on the defense or support side. My 4th Pokemon is Amoonguss, which is a common staple for a VGC team, with its good bulk and support moves like Spore to put the opponent to sleep, Rage Powder for redirecting attacks, and Pollen Puff to heal teammates. My 5th Pokemon is Palafin, which Palafin in its base form isn't the best, but when it switches out and back in, its stats get a huge buff. It also has moves like Jet Punch for priority damage and Haze to reset everyone's stat changes in case my opponent tries to set up on me. My last Pokemon is Rotom Wash. I figured I needed a good ground immune Pokemon to counter Ting Lu, and Rotom Wash with Will-O-Wisp and Hydro Pump seemed like a good candidate. Most of my team's EV spreads are focused on bulk, with some points in special attack and speed on Fluttermane, Chi-Yu, and attack on Palafin and Annihilate. So anyways, that's the team I'm using. Back to the regionals. So I headed home on Friday feeling confident about my placement, 6th out of 22. So I was curious about how tomorrow would go, since tomorrow is when the real deal happens. So I go back and get some sleep to be up bright and early on Saturday to get back to the convention center. Now for the main event. I arrive at the convention center on Saturday and wait in a really long line to register again, but when I finally arrive in the big room with all the battles, I was amazed by all the cool stuff they had. Like just everything, like the Pokemon merch and the prizes and stuff. So after a while, the battles will begin. So how the rankings work is that you play 9 rounds of Swiss, and if you win at least 7 of them, you make it to the top cut on day 2, where you have a chance to win the whole tournament. So immediately into the tournament, I realized my team has one problem, and I realized that is opponent's Amoonguss. Chi-Yu is my only Pokemon that can hit Amoonguss for super effective damage, and none of my Pokemon had the Safety Goggles item, so that meant it was really annoying to take down. Rotom and Palafin especially had trouble since without Terra they can't even hit Amoonguss for neutral damage. but somehow I tried to make it work. I ended up losing to round 1 to Amoonguss and Roaring Moon with Booster Energy Acrobatics with an Iron Hands, so that probably could have gone better. In round 2, I end up winning my first game versus a team with Dragonite and Choice Specs Toxtricity. Dragonite can be a nice pick with its ability Multiscale, which halves damage taken at full health, but everything seems nice at first, but then I end up throwing games 2 and 3 with Amoonguss redirecting my water moves with Rage Powder, and trying to go Hyper Offense with the Fluttermane Chi-Yu combo and failing to knock out anything. So I'm at 0-2 right now, and it's not looking too good. Round 3 gets started, and I'm finding a Sand team with Tyranitar and Lycanroc. My Palafin Jet Punches the Lycanroc, activating its Focus Sash, which means I won't get flinched by the incoming double Rock Slide. I send in Fluttermane later in the match because it's super fast, and Terra Fairy Choice Specs Dazzling Gleam hits super hard. Combined with Rotom's Will-O-Wisp to lower my opponent's attack, I end up eventually winning round 3, giving me my first win of the day. My round 4 opponent ended up showing up a couple minutes late. I think after 5 minutes, then round 1 is a loss, and after 10 minutes, round 2 is a loss. But my opponent showed up after about 3 minutes, so we got to play normally. Anyways, this round was my first encounter with Ting-Lu, which is an annoying Pokemon to fight against, with its extremely high defense stats and HP, and its ability lowering opponent's special attack. It can also learn Fissure, which only hits 30% of the time, but when it does, it instantly kills you, so it's basically RNG the move. But my opponent does not have Fissure on his Ting-Lu. Anyway, the round ends up taking forever with bulky Pokemon like Ting-Lu and Amoonguss, and hard-to-kill mons like Kingambit and Arcanine. I use Rotom Wash since it's a good counter to Ting-Lu with Will-O-Wisp and Levitate, but when I try to use Hydro Pump, I keep missing all the time. I swear I probably missed like 50% of the Hydro Pumps I used over that weekend. Anyway, I end up playing 3 really long games of round 4 that I end up losing, and lunch break happens after round 4, so we were one of the last ones still playing, and by the time we finished, half the lunch break was over, so I ended up not eating anything. So before round 5, I should say that there is a really long time in between rounds. Like usually when you finish, you can have upwards of an hour before the next round. So I guess it's a good time to chill out or check out the vendors. But the longer you play, the less time between rounds you have. So for 9 rounds, we were in the venue for about 10 hours, which is long, but still a fun time. So anyways, I sit back down for round 5, and I see my opponent's team has things like Baxcalibur and Iron Hands. The Iron Hands was running Terra Fire and Safety Goggles, so I couldn't burn it if it terra'd or spore it at all, so it was really annoying to take out. Iron Hands is also really bulky and it hits really hard, so not being able to status it really hurt, especially since Hydro Pump still kept missing. So with Amoonguss redirecting the pumps that actually do hit, the Robo Hariyama ends up killing most of my team. Game 2 didn't really go much differently, since I didn't really know how to play around Terra Fire Iron Hands, since it resists both of the spread moves on my team, Fluttermane's Dazzling Gleam and Chi-Yu's Heat Wave. So I end up falling to a 1-4 score after round 5, which is not very good, but I was still having fun. Round 6, I see my opponent has the Mouse Ape strategy, where you have Mousehold and Annihilate, and Mousehold uses Beat Up on the opposing Annihilate to make its signature move Rage Fist super strong. But my opponent actually ends up never using it, and he leads Fluttermane and Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl has the Prankster ability, making its status moves go first, so it can easily set up Reflect and Light Screen, which halves physical and special damage respectively. So my opponent gets Light Screen up and swaps to Ting-Lu, as Rotom misses Hydro Pump for the millionth time. I end up losing Game 1 to the opponent's Fluttermane and not being able to do much damage. Game 2 starts and I get to spore the Ting-Lu with Amoonguss, while Palafin's Mystic Water boosted Wave Crash does a lot of damage even through Reflect. Then later I can bring in my own Fluttermane and wreak havoc with its powerful moves. With a combination of Amoonguss's incredible bulk and Spore, it can manage to defeat an Arcanine somehow, and I can win Game 2. Game 3 starts and I immediately kill the opposing Fluttermane with Jet Punch and Shadow Ball. Ting-Lu comes in so I can swap out into Rotom. The opponent missed Sand Tomb on Ting-Lu, and it Terra Flyings. My entire team keeps getting Thunderwaved by Grimmsnarl, and my Rotom hits Will-O-Wisp finally, after multiple attempts. Eventually I keep whittling down the Tinglu, and my Fluttermane survives a heavy slam thanks to the burn. So I can make an amazing comeback and win Game 3 and the entire round, putting me at 2-4. Round 7 ended up being a very quick loss for me. My opponent leads Fluttermane Chi-Yu, and I end up playing poorly and losing pretty quickly. Game 2 doesn't go that much differently. I think I was a bit stressed leading into some misplays. My opponent's Dragonite had Facade, which I totally forgot about when I used Will-O-Wisp on it. So I got swept pretty quickly, my bad. My round 8 opponent was using Darkspun on his team, which was neat until I saw that his Chi-Yu has Lava Plume so that it can hit Darkspun and activate its ability to give it a defense boost. He was also joking that he was using Terra Bug Grafaiai and told me that it was a mistake. I still ended up losing the round due to Grafaiai's Toxic Stall and his Iron Hands again being really annoying to kill. I did win one round because Darkspun didn't have any damaging moves other than Body Press and Snarl, which Annihilate can just clean up on. So I head into round 9, the final round, with a score of 2-6. My final opponent of the day was using both Armarouge and Ceruledge on the same team, maybe because he just wanted both, I don't know. Anyways, on Game 1, I just barely win thanks to Annihilate, who just barely survived a Serena's super effective Play Rough. Game 2 doesn't go much differently, and Annihilate even survived a Terra Fairy Play Rough this time, so I ended up winning my final round. So that's the end of Saturday. Overall a fun time, although I ended up only getting a 3-6 score. I left the convention center, picked up some cheap dinner at a grocery store, and headed to sleep tired, as I didn't leave the convention center until 7 p.m., but I was still excited for tomorrow. And I know I didn't do very well, but I had a lot of fun and couldn't wait to see what was in store for the next day. After I got home, I noticed signups were open for a Premier Challenge, which is a smaller tournament that you can participate in to get some smaller rewards. So I figured why not, and I registered using the same team I had used on Saturday. So I went back on Sunday and got ready for the Premier Challenge. I decided that today I would not take any notes to see if I could do any better, since I thought that I was taking too many notes on Saturday, and that hurt my performance a bit by not focusing on the game as much. Because I didn't take any notes, I don't remember many of the matches that happened over Sunday, although I do remember getting to have a rematch with a couple of my opponents from yesterday that I lost to and won against them. By the end of the Premier Challenge, I actually did surprisingly well, going 5-2 and placing me in the top 16 out of over 100 participants. I did so well that for the Premier Challenge I got 6 championship points, which is a thing that they use to get invited to Worlds. You need 300 points to get there, which is a lot, but totally possible if you're super committed, so I think I did pretty well for myself. One last thing, all the non-battle stuff was pretty cool. There were plenty of side events that you could sign up for to earn these dice that you could trade in for stuff on the prize wall. I did some and got a couple neat things. The vendors were also pretty neat. They sold things like plushies, cards, and some other random stuff. And the environment was also really cool since everyone in that room was as into Pokemon as I was. But yeah, I had a lot of fun at the regionals, and I hope to start saving enough money to go to more of these in the future. Who knows, maybe I'll even grind hard enough to get to participate in Worlds sometime, but that'll be a story for another time. Thanks for watching.